Welcome to One Way Podcast. I'm your host, Angel Ariola, and today we have Renee Rodriguez with us, and he's going to share his testimony. He's going to tell us everything God's been doing in his life, how he got saved, and how he came to God and all that. So, real quick, bro, just how long you been saved, and how'd you come to the church?
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it all started whenever my parents came to church about, I want to say like 22 years ago. About, yeah, 22, maybe 20. I was 3 years old. So I practically grew up in church. Uh, yeah. So, I mean, I grew up since I was three and always went to church. That's all I really knew. Never really knew anything outside of that. Um, Um, yeah, so I mean, I had my own friends. I never really got saved myself. Growing up in church, I never experienced that. It was just kind of more like a everyday thing, like going to school or you know going to church was just like that for me, at least. And I never really hated it or disliked it in any way. It was more just just went, had my friends there, so that was cool. Um, yeah, and I think I really didn't dislike it at all, but I started to dislike it whenever we got sent out. Started our own church and everything. I think I was about maybe 14. I want to say maybe, yeah, or somewhere around there. My early teens, uh, yeah, 14, 15. We got sent out to the west side of San Antonio. So out there you don't really have your friends anymore, and for me, I didn't have any more friends. I didn't have anyone to hang out with because you're kind of out by yourself, and your life is the church now, even more so. And yeah, so that's when I kind of started to actually dislike it and really, dread going to church. Dragging all the time. And I wasn't really a rebel or like a hardcore rebel. I wasn't, trying to sneak out at night or anything, or go behind my parents' back really with anything. I just kind of didn't like going to church. Um, it was more just because it took up so much of our time, especially when we were sent out. Yeah, I was just kind of always there, always doing something, following up on people or, outreaching and stuff like that. It was kind of just, I wanted to do stuff outside of church really, in school, and I wanted to do sports and, doing and being sent out like that. Your dad being a pastor, it was kind of, don't really have time for that kind of stuff. Um, but my parent, I was, yeah, like I said, I wasn't a rebel. I was, respectful. I never, I wasn't even like, I wouldn't say I was a two-faced either. Really, at school, I just kind of acted how I acted everywhere. Like,
Right.
I wasn't like trying to cuss or trying to act like anybody at school, or I just kind of just acted the same, really. And yeah, so then whenever I turned 18, um, I I moved out literally like probably 2 weeks after I turned 18. I think, yeah, I think it was about 2 weeks after. Um, I'd actually tried to leave when I was like 16, but my dad found me and he brought me back to our house, and I guess kind of, I don't know, kind of ran away, but not really. It was kind of just trying to. But anyways, he found me, and so whenever I turned 18, though, that he kind of said like, as long as you're under 18, you're gonna stay here until you're 18. Then you can make your own decisions. So I was like, oh man, I'm just waiting until I turn 18, and for me, it wasn't really. I was trying to go out and do drugs, or even sleep around or anything, or party, or I just kind of wanted to hang out with my friends and just kind of have my own life
Right,
outside
right,
of
right,
church,
right.
kind of thing. And yeah, so when I turned 18, my dad would always tell me, uh, you're really covered. I was really sheltered, I guess you could say. I didn't really know how it was out there because my parents provided everything for me. They're always there. I had both of them. That was more than a lot of my friends at school could say. So they had, more fend for themselves. I was always real sheltered, but I didn't know that. So I kind of thought, I would, in my mind, I would think a lot, my dad's testimony was drugs, partying, having a bunch of kids before he was married and real young. And in my head, I was always like, I wanted to go out and just I wanted to go to college, just live my life without God, really, not really. How can you say it? Like, I just wanted to live my life, yeah, without rule, without having a strict schedule kind of thing.
Right.
I wanted to kind of just live and experience things and stuff like that, I guess. So my dad, and in my head, I'd always be like, that's good for you, because you needed it. You were like, he was on heroin and all that other stuff. And so I was like, you needed it, but I don't really need that because I'm not trying to go out there and do that. I just want to go out there and, live my life. And I wanted to be successful and I wanted to, have a family later on and everything. And, but I always yeah. And I think I even told him, like, I might have even told him to his face one time. I can't really remember, but I might have told him, like, I don't want to do what you did. I want to do something else. I want to live, right, but not with God, I guess.
Live like a normal life.
Yeah, just a normal life.
Yeah.
Kind of how I saw my friends, but I didn't really know what was going on in their houses, outside of school. But, they had just their normal lives. They could, every Sunday night and every Wednesday was church for us. But for them, they could, go to, have fun somewhere else. They didn't have that strict schedule that we had, So, yeah. And it was just,
So you left when you were 18.
yeah.
And okay, but before we keep on going, let's go back a little bit. So, really, pretty much your whole life is church, right?
Yeah.
Ever since you can remember.
Yeah.
And then, but at any point when you were younger, did you ever get saved?
No, I wouldn't. No, I didn't.
When you were like 8, 9, all that?
No.
Wow.
And it wasn't even like I was trying to it wasn't like I was feeling convicted all the time and I was like I guess my heart was just hardened, like I just didn't even feel like conviction really. Right. And maybe because I've heard it so many times.
It was just normal.
Yeah, it was just like just another sermon, just another, even like revivals and stuff, with guest pastors, and I just never really. I was either thinking about something else or just waiting to get out.
Right, and but you went to regular school though, right?
Yeah, I was.
So how was that? How was like? Because you say you weren't really like you weren't trying to be two different people, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're being influenced by school because everybody has girlfriends and phones, and they're doing smoking, drinking, and you come home and then it's just like church. And,
yeah.
Can't do this, can't do that.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff, like not having a phone in high school was kind of like a big thing from like like I guess in middle school wasn't too big of an issue, and then once I got to high school though, everyone has phones. The girlfriend thing, it wasn't really a big thing for me, like because I just knew I couldn't, like, it would be too hard. It's just too hard to try and like secretly have all that. I just didn't want to put forward like the effort kind of thing, like, too much to hide. And I knew that I'd never really even if I did get a girlfriend or something, like, it wouldn't be I couldn't do anything outside of school. So like, what I'm saying, it was just too much effort, and I wasn't really interested in all that. Like, I was more just focused on getting out of that, like, my parents' house.
So can you say that it was kind of like, even though you've heard all the sermons, it's kind of like you knew, like, all right, like, I still don't want to go to hell. Was that ever in your mind, like, I know if I do this, I can end up going to hell if I die? Was it ever like that, like in school? Like certain things you didn't do?
Nah, no.
Really? It was just like you didn't want to do them?
I just didn't want to do it. Like, I didn't want to. I think a few times, once or twice, I might have got invited to like parties and stuff, but I just knew there was no way it was going to happen, so I didn't even try. My dad that was just shut down, so it was just never really an option in my head.
And so, and then y'all got sent out, and what year would you say? Well, how old are you?
I think I was like 14. I want to say 14.
Right.
About
and then, so when y'all get over there, what'd you find? What did you think when you found out you were getting sent out?
I like so whenever I remember we were watching the conference video at church, and I just kind of knew it was gonna happen. Like me and my brothers, we were staying with another family from church while my parents were in conference, and uh, we just kind of knew it was gonna happen. You know, when they got announced, I was just like, dang, like our lives are really gonna be all in church now. You know, I was just like, dang, man, like, and I knew it, and I was like, and then more so because we lived in the West Side, so I went to school in the West Side, and we got sent out to the West Side. So I was like, man, like we're gonna be going to all where my friends live, and we're gonna be outreaching, you know. And I mean, people knew at school that I went to church. I don't remember how, honestly, but I want to say they did know, and but it wasn't because I witnessed, because I didn't. But I forgot how they, you know, some people knew, and
Maybe that conversation.
I
Like,
guess
oh,
it comes, yeah, something like that. But I was just like, man, like, you know, now people are really gonna know, like, kind of thing. So I was just like, man. So I was kind of, you know, I was kind of mad, honestly, I think. And yeah, so that's when we got sent out, about 15, and there I was there for like 3 years, and then I left. I think they were there for maybe a couple more years.
And so, what high school did you go to?
I went to Memorial.
And how was all like? It was. I mean, I'm asking because I know Memorial, all the SAISD schools are all ghetto, right?
Yeah.
So, but like, how was that? Like being out there, and just and being in school. How was all that?
I mean, yeah, it was real ghetto. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty ghetto. But the way we were raised, I never really became ghetto, me or my family, or any of my, you know, siblings, or my mom raised my parents really raised us, you know, just because we live in the ghetto, we don't gotta act ghetto, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, we weren't all loud, and you know how they act.
You never got out of hand.
Yeah, we never really acted up like that. We weren't really trying to get into like trouble, fights. We never really into all that. Like I said, like I was, you know, in high school, even like I guess all through school, I was always, you know, straight A, B kind of, you know, kid. I was always like in the higher classes, and I actually enjoyed, you know, school, some parts of it. So I was, you know, I would try it, and I was pretty smart, I would say. Right. And yeah, like I said, like I was gonna go to college, and you know, just leave that, you know, church life behind. And
okay, so you end up leaving at 18, and what would you say, like, for you? And you know, I'm asking because there's a bunch of people, even church kids who grow up and all they know is church, and they want to leave. And so, like, what do you think it was for you that? Because I know you said you wanted to do your own thing, right? But when you left, what was it like? All right, like, did you ever wrestle with, like, man, should I leave or should I not leave? Or you already had it in your mind, like, I'm gonna leave once I turn 18.
Yeah, nah, my mind was pretty much made up for a couple of years before I turned 18. Yeah, I just kind of didn't want to be involved. Like, I think once we got, you know, sent out, that's what and then being there for a few years, and that's kind of just started pushing me further away. And
so you left when y'all were out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were out already for a couple of years, and then that's when I moved out. A few years later, my brother moved out, and all that. Yeah.
Okay, so touch up a little bit on that. Like, were all your brothers the same way? Like, they were feeling the same way?
I would say that, you know, the three oldest, me and my second oldest brother, we're pretty much the same way. I'd say my brother Angel, he was saved for a bit at that church, at our church in the West Side. I believe he was saved for a little bit, and then I guess just all of his other brothers not being saved, I think kind of pushed him to backslide. And yeah, but I think by the time he was in high school, I don't think he was saved. Yeah, he wasn't saved or anything. So he was saved for a little bit though. The other ones were pretty young, so they can't, you know, middle school, elementary, so they weren't really.
Okay, so when you left, tell us about that. What did you think? Like, all right, well, I'm gone. What?
Yeah, so I mean, when I left, I had no plan. I was just.
Did you have a job?
I had a job. I was working at Bill Miller's, So it's a job.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I left, I got so I think I had texted my sister, my older sister. She picked me up. Um, I had no plan, nowhere to
So
live.
did you have things packed? Tell us everything. I want to
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Oh,
Like,
so I left on a Wednesday, so I can't remember. It
man, you
was
made it a name to leave on Wednesday.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. It just happened. Yeah, because I was always trying to. I think I was always trying to get out of like doing things that involve church. So I couldn't be in sports, so I ended up being in band because that's what my parents let me. It was sports. They had a lot of stuff on church days. Sundays, Wednesdays, and it was just too much. So my parents, that was obvious practices, and that was always like not an option. And so I was in band for a bit, and just to get, honestly, it was really to get out of church, like because we had football, high school football games are on Fridays, and sometimes we had outreaches, so I'd get out of outreach and kind of that kind of thing, and also I like football, so but yeah, so it was a Wednesday. It was right before church. It was just, yeah, like all thinking about all this now is it was like man, like I don't know what I was thinking really. Like
Yeah.
it was just
You weren't, but
I wasn't thinking.
yeah.
Yeah, but so yeah, it was a Wednesday. Me and my dad had kind of got into an argument about I can't remember what the exact argument was about, but it was about something. I had made up some kind of lie, and I was trying to get out of church that day, and I was trying to get out of church, so I made up some kind of lie, and he wasn't falling for it because he could see right through it. My dad and I remember my mom and my most of my siblings had left to church already. Um, so it was already about that time, And then so it was me and then my one of my sisters and my dad that were still at the house. He was still getting his sermon prepared and everything. And then I remember we got some kind of argument, and then I went to my room and I just started packing. I wasn't even thinking. I just started packing. Like I don't know. I just started packing all my clothes, whatever or like my few clothes I like, few things I did have. I just started packing it into a bag, and and I think my dad walks by and he's like, what are you doing? Like, and then kind of got into another argument, and I was like, I'm leaving, like I'm out of here, like I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want nothing to do with this. And my sister pulls up, and he's like, I don't think he knew her car though, because he didn't know who it was. He didn't know he didn't know who picked me up. I think so. I just walk out. He's talking to me the entire time, just walking through, getting my stuff, walking through the house, getting my stuff, and he's just talking to me. Yeah, we were like yelling at each other, and I was just packing my stuff and just going, just leaving. I was already, holding it all inside for a while, because who am I gonna tell, like that? Me and my brothers all kind of felt the same way, so we all kind of we didn't talk about it though, we just all kind of knew. We were all kind of waiting until we were 18, kind of thing, and so yeah, so I was just I was kind of mostly just ignoring him. I'd already like ignored him. I didn't even know what he was saying. I was just getting my stuff, so I ended up leaving. Um, hopping in the car with my sister, just take off, and I had nowhere to live. I didn't have a phone. I didn't have, I had nothing. Just the clothes in my bag and clothes I was wearing. And like I said, I had a job at Bill Miller's. I was working there. So we go, and I lived with her for a bit, where she was staying. I want to say for about a year. Yeah, so I'm dealing with her and kept working, and then so my whole plan was, I still wanted to go to college. I was going to take a year off I just graduated, so I wanted to take a year off and then go to college. Um, I had got like grants and what are those other things called? A bunch of grants and stuff, scholarships, and so I was still planning to. Like I had my whole college advisor. I was, I told him, I'm gonna take a year off and then I'm gonna start in the fall, right? The next year. It goes 2019. I was gonna start in 2019. And so he was cool with it. We had a plan. We already signed up for everything, financial aid, all that stuff. And so that was my whole plan, right? And so I, go out and like it really, I think it hit me whenever. So what really helped, what kind of helped me too, was whenever I was younger, I was in a car accident, and I had fractured my eye bone right here, and so I had a lot of money from that. It was like a few grand, and so with that, so I was waiting until I was 18, and I already had like thought about all this. I was waiting until I was 18. That's when I moved out, so that's when I could take out the money because you had to be 18. So I had to go downtown or whatever, take out the money. And then I bought a car, so that kind of got me rolling. And so yeah, so I stayed with her for a bit, and I was still I wasn't really trying to prove anything. I would say I was just kind of wanted to be clear of roles, like I said, and so I started going to I just kept working, didn't really do too much. I wasn't really trying to.
Did you ever? Excuse me. Did you
Yeah,
talk to your parents and all this? After you left,
Uh,
because you left kind of like on bad terms a little bit, right?
yeah, now for sure.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I didn't talk to them for I want to say 2 years. At
Really?
least. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't.
Wow.
No, a year and a half, 2 years. Yeah, so I didn't talk for them. Yeah, 2 years about.
Wow. But was it just like I don't want to talk to him because whatever, or just how did I mean? Why did that happen like that? You were just trying to be at the house already.
Yeah,
Right,
and
right,
also like just like got engulfed in like life, really just
Right,
trying
right,
to I just in sin. And yeah, so I started. I think I would start off all right, and then slowly. Well, backtrack a little bit. A few months before I moved out, I had never done drugs or nothing. In high school, I never touched drugs, and then whenever I started working, over there at Bill Miller's, I met some friends and all the ghetto, the ghettoest friends you could have, some of them, and and so when I was working there, and I was still living with my parents, and we would get out real late, like 11 o'clock, 11:30. So sometimes one of my friends would drop me off at home, and so one night I was one of my friends was dropping me off, probably about four of us, and they bring out a blunt, and they all start hitting it, start passing it, and that was the first time I was high, and that was the first time I got high, and I was still living with my parents, and so the whole ride home I was like, man, like, or yeah, they'd ask, they kind of asked me because even them, they knew I went to church some way. I forgot how, but they asked me, are you good if you kind of smell like weed and your parents say nothing, and I was like, nah, they won't say nothing, like just trying to fit in, really. Yeah, just trying to fit in. I was like, nah, they're cool, or I didn't say they're cool, but I was like, nah, they won't say nothing. Yeah. I was really counting on them to be asleep by the time I got there, but so I remember getting home and I was high, dude. I was, my first time getting high and hotboxed the car, and I was out of it, and so I sneak around the back and I try and go in the back and try and hop in the shower real quick. And I remember my dad, I'm pretty sure I smelled like it bad, and I remember my dad catching me, and then we had a argument about that, and that's also, and that started pushing me further because that made me want to, so that was really the only time I did drugs. That was the only one time I did. I never really touched after that again while I was living with them. And so, but then after I moved out, started with weed, and that's all I liked it. I ain't gonna lie, the first time, and so I wanted to do it again, but I didn't do it because I was still living with them. So after I moved out, I started smoking. I started smoking for a while, and then started smoking a lot more, and that's all I really did, just work and smoke and go home, and that's all. I just kind of didn't really do too much more, and then so when I moved, I was living with my sister for a bit, and I moved out whenever. So my brother, about a year later, my brother moved out, and he moved into a house, and then we moved in together. We kind of rented this house together, kind of roommated, and so we started living there, and that having your own house, and that's when I started doing more, and started having parties at our house, and that following year, that's when I was supposed to start school.
And then both y'all both wanted to be out the house already, so it's kind of like y'all just doing like
we just
whatever we want
together. Yeah. And so he moved out.
Before you go, like, okay, whenever y'all both, because I'm sure he called you right when he left the house or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you ever like you ever call like, man, did you ever think or talk about like, man, like maybe we're tripping or it was just like
Nah, never
never.
crossed. Nah.
All right,
Yeah.
cool. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So he moved out. I'm pretty sure he texted me. Probably I think the day he moved out, he texted me. He moved into that house, and it was one of his friends' houses, and um, yeah, so it was one of his friends' houses. And his friend moved out, so it was just him. So I moved in with him, split the bills, and that's when we kind of started. I was supposed to start school that year. I pushed it back, and my advisor was like, you don't want to do this. If you push this back again, like the percentage of people that keep pushing it back, push it back past the year and never do it. And so I was like, nah, I'm still gonna do it. Just I'm gonna wait a semester, one more semester. And because I was trying to get the house and stuff like that, or so I told myself. And after that, I never went to college, and yeah. So yeah, when we moved in together, um, we started, having some parties at our house, starting with parties and inviting our just friends, and I started drinking more. That's when I started drinking a lot, and then that led to I started taking acid, and a few of my other friends are heavy into shrooms, so we started taking shrooms. So then after that, it kind of when I left, it was like I don't want to do drugs. I just want to smoke a little, and that's pretty much it. But I still want to stay on track, kind of. And then, but I couldn't control it. You can't control it. So
Well, it's because we lied to ourselves. Like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I just want to
yeah, I just
find
want
my own little
yeah,
path.
yeah, do what I want to do.
Yeah, without the drugs.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
So,
it's funny you're saying because when I was 15, I mean, I didn't grow up like you. My parents weren't in church, but like even though I tried to do good when I was younger, even though I lived like in bad environments, like in my head, I'm like, I'm gonna play basketball. I like basketball. I want to play basketball. All that, just trying to be in sports, whatever. But I remember too, man. Like, and the reason I'm saying this is because people have no idea. Like, weed is really, it really is bad. It really messes up your life. Like for me,
yeah,
the only drug I've ever done is weed and pills, right? But I never the pills. It was just like a couple times, like a few times. But I remember when I started smoking weed, that was it. Like
yeah.
I just wanted to be high.
All
Always,
the
that's
time.
it. Like
Yeah,
that was my whole mission. Like get money, smoke weed. Like play basketball, smoke weed. Like, and it's like it really messes up your life.
it controls your life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because you need it, and people
Mhm.
think, oh, it's not addicting, but yeah, it's. People think that drugs are just like cocaine, heroin, meth, but no, weed is just addicting. Yeah, and it messes you up.
yeah.
Yeah, go
It's
ahead.
just a little bit slower though.
Yeah, it's a little slower.
it's
Yeah,
slower, but it does. It'll keep you bound your entire life.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I start. So after that, it kind of was just like after we moved in, I moved in, and it was just kind of like it just like the door just opened. Like everything went like whatever it was. I wanted to try it. I didn't care what it was. Besides needles, I drew that was the line, right? Uh, so yeah, whatever it was, I wanted to try it, and some stuff I liked, some stuff I didn't. But yeah, and then started like mixing stuff and started drinking a lot more like heavily, and mostly it was just like waiting for the weekend and trying to find a party to go to, and if there was no parties I could find, just come to my house or something kind of thing, and my friends really liked it because I was real. I wasn't like the rest of their friends because growing up, I had a different childhood than them, so I guess that kind of made me different. The way, like, whenever they went to parties at my house, I was real generous with everything. I would buy weed for everybody, and I wanted everyone to have as good a time as me because I wanted everyone to be happy because I wanted to be happy. So I was real like generous, and I just wanted I wanted everyone. I guess I really wanted everyone just to like me. You can say that,
Right.
and so I want everyone to have as much fun. I want people to be like, oh yeah, whenever he has a party, I want to go to his house. And they weren't all crazy. They were real laid back, but I just wanted everyone. I just didn't want to be lonely. That was real it. Really it. I just wanted to
Were these friends from school or from work?
work mostly, maybe one or two from school, but I didn't really talk to anyone from school and yeah, so it was mostly just from work. From Bill Miller's and
Plus your brother's friends.
yeah, some of them, yeah, too.
Wow.
Yeah, so we'd have parties at our house and just yeah, and that was really what it was. Like I just didn't want to be alone. Like I just wanted to have fun. But at the end of the day, I come Monday, I was always like, man, like another week, and I'm just waiting for the weekend again, all over again, kind of just like a cycle, just. And like you said, like you always wanted to be high. I always wanted to be high. I was smoke when I woke up, and before I went to work, and when I got home, kind of thing. It's
And
just,
so you're only what, 18 at the time now?
yeah, 18, 19.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And okay, so at any point ever when you were doing all this, like, did you ever think about God? Or like, did you think about your parents, like everything, like all that, any of that stuff? Did you ever think about that?
So my dad would text me like every once in a while. He'd say like, you need to come to church. You just say like a random text like, you need to come to church. You need to, you need to come back. You need to get right. And I'd either ignore it or just, text them back something simple. Like or he'd send me like revival flyers and stuff like that. But myself, I never really thought of it. I never really thought, I want to go back or nothing. But I do remember there was one time when I didn't really, ask God or anything. But I remember the first time I took Molly. Like while I was on it, it was real good, and then I, went to sleep. The next day, I woke up, and then people say that they've had bad depression, and I never had depression. I don't know, I just never been like want to get depressed, but like I don't know if it was a side effect or something. But I knew what depression was that day. Like and I remember just sitting in my car, and it was like middle of the summer, and I was just sitting there. It was off, and I was like sweating, dude. But I didn't feel anything like, and at that point, yeah, that was like a bad side effect or something, and I didn't really say it to God, but I kind of told, like, I was like, man, I'm tired of this. Like I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of this, just this cycle. Like I'm just like I was really depressed. I was very depressed at that day. I really was. I didn't really say God, but I was like, man, I'm just tired of this. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, and then I remember like calling one of my friends and asking like, hey, like I feel like down, like bad, like is this normal? Like, cause like I just didn't want to do anything. Like I didn't say I wanted to like end my life, but it was pretty close to that. I don't know what it was, and they kind of just laughed it off, and I was like, man, like I was like whatever. And then so after that, that day ended, and I just forgot about all that because it went away. Never felt depressed after that. So that was the only time I ever kind of thought, like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. And yeah, so that was the only time really.
That's the only time you ever thought, like, even thinking about God or anything?
Yeah, I ever thought about quitting, like, but I still like I said, after that I went back and I liked it still, like. Yeah.
Okay, so from there, how long was it before until you came back to the church? Or like, what was it leading up to all that?
I want to say I was gone. I wasn't gone too long. I was gone for maybe like, I want to say 2.5 to 3 years. Yeah, 2.5 to 3 years. So living at that house, yeah, we were there for a bit. But so we actually ended up getting kicked out of that house because we couldn't pay the rent because we were just spending it on dumb stuff, and so we ended up getting. So it all kind of happened like, yeah, I kind of went downhill pretty quick because my that car that I had broke down. Then we got kicked out, so I didn't have a car, and I was basically homeless.
What happened with all that money? You spent it all?
I spent most of it on the car.
Oh, okay.
That's why I decided to get like this. Decided to get a BMW, so I spent all my money on the car, and the rest of it I just spent on weed, I guess. And yeah, so that's where all that went. And so my car broke down. I got kicked out of that house. They kicked us out. And then so my brother moved into his girlfriend's house, and I moved in with actually a couple from church. But the husband wasn't saved, but his wife was, and I moved in with them for a bit, and yeah, so I was there for a bit, and then I had to move out of there, so I was basically homeless all over again. And I still was thinking about going to church, and I was still, and what happened? Oh yeah, so then I moved out. I had to move out of there, so I was trying to find a place to live, and my dad reached out, right, and I had told him about my situation, kinda, and he invited me back. Like he's like, you can come live with us for a bit, but you know what you're gonna have to do. You know our roles, and so I was like, man, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go. So I went living, moved back with them, thinking that I was just gonna stay there a few months and then move back out. Like I still didn't want to get saved. I didn't want any of that. Um, so yeah, I moved back in with them and started going to church. I wasn't saved. I didn't get saved. I was there. I think about the same time around that you got. I think that you went. I went to every service, but I didn't get saved or nothing.
Yeah, because it's like in 2020 when I came. Like when I came in there, I remember started seeing you.
Yeah.
But I don't remember like when I got there, because when you get there, you're not like trying to look at other people. You just like. But I just remember more so seeing you like in the newcomers class. But I think that you already saved. But before that, I don't remember seeing you. I think it was just like you don't pay attention.
Yeah, that was after I got.
Yeah.
So I mean, I started going for. I think it was I was living with them for about 2 months, and then, so I had never felt God really deal with me, and then a few months in, I was trying to save money. I was trying to save money to go get my own place.
And you're still working at Bill Miller's?
No, I was doing I was working construction already. I was doing installation, and so I was trying to save money, and to move back out, and then I started feeling like the conviction in some services, and I'd be like, man, like I just need to get out of here already.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I need to get out of here. So then I remember I did not plan to get saved. I felt it, but I was still not. I was still pretty stubborn. And then I remember Chris Boteo actually got saved on his farewell sermon. And I don't think he remembers, but yeah, I got saved his farewell. It wasn't even the sermon really. Like how many people say it wasn't even the sermon. I was feeling convicted, as I had a few times before that, and then I just remember he said like bow your heads. I bowed my head, and then that's when God really grabbed me, and I started listening a little bit, but yeah, he really. It was like right when I bowed my head, that's when he just grabbed me, and I just gave up. I just finally gave up, and when he said, asked who wanted to come up, raised my hand right away, went up.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just like instantly, like even though I had told myself I wasn't, I still did, and and I think it was because that one time when I told you, I was real depressed, and I said, I'm tired of it. And I think all that stuff that happened, my car getting kicked out, I think all that led, to breaking me, I guess you can say. Right. Because if I hadn't got saved, I would have went back, and I would have just started doing probably worse, and so I got saved, and that was in March 1st of
2020.
Was it 20?
Yeah, because
2020, I think.
Yeah.
But just right before I turned 21.
Yeah.
Because I was ready, and I was also thinking like, oh, I'm about to turn 21, so I'm now legal. So I was planning to leave my parents' house before I turned 21, so I could take advantage of that. But so it was right before I turned 21. So it was like 2.5 years I was gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you get saved, and then what? Like, what is like?
Yeah, I mean.
Was that the first time you were ever like really saved?
That was the first time I can honestly say that I felt I just God like just grab a hold of me, like know. I went up and I was crying, bro. Like I'm not a crier, but I was crying up there. Like I was.
And so you were never saved growing up, right? Like
no.
Even growing up in church.
I never felt that. No, like
wow.
Maybe just like hearing it so many times, growing up, and never really letting it work in me. I guess you can say never letting it. Yeah,
wow.
So I guess
crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, and then so you get saved, and then what? Like, what are you?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, those 2.5 years, it felt like it went by quick, and I come back and I get saved. I remember getting saved, and I was just like, man, it's how it feels. I finally felt how it feel. How people would say, growing up, I've heard so many testimonies. Everybody, saying I had seen so many people growing up crying and be like, man, like, why are you crying? Calm down. And I even went to boot camp when I was younger here in South Texas. And funny was I actually wanted to go, and I liked it. I really liked it. Just didn't get saved. Came in to see me in one of the videos, and I was just standing there like stone faced. I wasn't. I was just. But I liked it though.
Right.
I enjoyed it. But yeah, even there, it's I would watch all these kids, teenagers going up, crying, and I was like, man, like y'all are all gonna go back after this. Y'all know y'all are all gonna go back to how y'all are at school, and more so because I didn't want to be fake. I kind of didn't want to be fake. I didn't want to fake it, so I always said like if I'm gonna get saved, then I'm not gonna act one way out here and then one way at church.
Right.
Like that's why I kind of never, and even at school, like I said, I wasn't ever trying to act like them really.
Right.
But yeah, so when I got saved, I felt that, and I really felt God's presence that day. And it was just, man, it was just something like I never felt before. And I remember trying not to cry, but I was still crying. And I had a lot of anger towards my dad. And I remember just crying, and I just remember like just kind of just letting that anger kind of go,
Right.
And yeah, from that day, I was still when I was at my parents' house, I was still trying to like sneak and go smoke somewhere, like obviously not in their house, and I wouldn't go back home high.
Right.
But and yeah, since then I stopped smoking right away, and I did feel it, like I said, it was, I did feel the urge, for like a month or two after that. But yeah, I stayed strong and stayed away from it, and um, friends would text me like, hey, like where you been, and like and I just honestly I had to delete their numbers because it was a bad influence.
Right.
And so yeah, I stopped drinking, stopped smoking. And
What did your parents think about you getting saved, or even your brother, because you're living with your brother? How was all that?
yeah,
When you got saved?
No, for him it was he was still kind of fresh, so he was still kind of enjoying it, and he was living with his girlfriend, so he kind of had it a little easy. So he was still enjoying it.
Right.
He didn't want to. I think I told him, and he had found out, and he didn't really say too much about it. But yeah, he doing his own thing.
Right. And your parents, what they say?
I know my mom was happy for sure. Yeah. Well, they were both happy. My siblings, and then after that, yeah. So I started. I remember my brother getting saved. My other brother, my younger brother. And I think him seeing me come back and get saved was part of it,
right,
partially, because yeah, he was a hard-headed one too.
Right.
He got saved for a little bit, and
all right. So okay, well now you've been saved like 5 years.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, 5 years.
5 years, and
just turned 5 years.
Yeah. So you got married, and touch on that a little bit.
Yeah. So I got saved, and so I kind of wanted to, because growing up I had seen people come in, get saved, leave, come in, get saved. So I didn't want to be one of those people. So I kind of wanted to prove that I'm serious about this. Like, so I didn't. I was just focused on really God. I was trying to go to outreach and doing the things that I knew that you need to do, in order to stay saved and everything. Started going to that new converts class, and just trying to do right. And so I think it was about, maybe I was saved for about 8 months maybe, and I wasn't looking. I wasn't. Oh yeah, like I said, I was focused on God really, and it was, I think, 8 months in, and then I had started. I noticed my wife, and or back now my wife, but so we kind of started talking as friends. We would only really hang out whenever there was like fellowships, and started talking. Just getting to know each other. And I remember telling Pastor right away, just because I didn't want to make it seem like I was just trying to come back for a girl, and trying to find a girl. So I was real up front. I told him, if you see me talking to her, I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just, we both wanted to get to know each other a little bit better. We grew up in church together, so we've known each other. I've known her since I was, I don't know, 10, 11, 12.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, we've known each other since then. But obviously, I left, and she stayed in church. So I didn't know her. We didn't really know each other when I came back, and so we started getting to know each other. She was real, firm on, seeing that I was real about, where I was really about it, really about, really saved. So I think it was about a year in. Yeah, a year after I got saved, we started courting. Courted for about 3 months, and then I proposed, and then 3 months later we were married. And it was the longest 6 months of my life. And yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. And then so we got married, and in May of 2021. Yeah, and yeah, and then 4 years or 3.5 years later, just had my first kid, daughter. She's 6 months. So
Nice.
yeah, and it was, yeah, it's all because of, and when I was younger, when I was not younger, when I was backslidden out of church, and I left my parents. I'd always say, I'm not going to get married out, because seeing people get married and do it the right way, I didn't want any commitment like that. I would always say, like, oh, I'm not getting married until I'm 27, 28, 30, and, God really changed my heart on that. Yeah, that is crazy. It just completely changed my whole way of thinking, really.
Right.
And, yeah, so, and my wife, and, yeah.
Nice. All right. So, what are some things? What are some things that God's been doing lately in your life, or what are some things you want Him to do in your marriage, your life, or whatever it is? Things just.
Yeah. So me personally, I never, I was always been like a quiet, prideful kind of person, right? I wasn't really like loud about it, but I admit that I am, and pretty stubborn too. And God's been helping me with that, and I'm really grateful for my wife, because she does show me some things that I need to improve on, and so that is one thing definitely that I would say that God's been helping me kind of. My pride, I guess that's really for every guy, I'd say.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, he's definitely saying when I'm wrong, and being more making stands, really. I'd say more recently, kind of making stands more, be more outspoken, at work, because in high school I was really I never spoke about God or anything. So being more outspoken at work, and being more like making stands, like just the little things, not even big, not even big things, just little things like here and there, like like the jokes, you know how it is, like working in construction, just like guys are real perverted, and just like that kind of things. Make more stands to not to separate from that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, because that was always I wouldn't say I like indulge in that, but I'll go along with it, I guess you could say.
Right.
And so being more separate from that, even if they're making fun of you is not really a big thing. Like people are actually getting killed for it, in other countries. So that kind of thing, and I'd say he's helped me a lot with that. Be more outspoken, taking stands with that. It's been a big difference. I'd say, yeah.
All right. If you could leave some words of encouragement for listeners, people who grew up like you, similar background, or it don't matter. What are some words you'll leave somebody who may be watching? Somebody who grew up in church. Somebody who grew up in church and they feel like, man, I want to leave because of this or that or whatever it is. They feel like being saved or being growing up in church. They feel like, oh, it sucks. I can't do nothing. Right? Just touch on that a little bit.
Yeah. So I mean, I know a lot of people say, it's not worth it, all that stuff. But saying it as someone who's done this, speaking, from this point of view, um, if you want to do it, if you have your mind up, you're gonna do it, then you're gonna do it regardless. But just know that sin will take you further than you want to. And I'm like an example of that, And I had my life planned out, so I thought, and the covering that you have, it's a lot, stronger than you think. So I would say, if you're a church kid, then growing up, the rules are actually pretty. They might seem strict, but they're there to help you. And um, your parents, your mom, your dad, they only want what's best for you. They're not trying to control you. They just know what's out there. And speaking from experience, I know what's out there too. And the love that your parents have for you is more than, and the love that God has for you is more than anyone out there ever will. Boyfriends, girlfriends, yeah, you're not gonna find that anywhere else. That emptiness that that people talk about, that is real, and it's really just a cycle. Like, people out there, they're just doing the same. Everyone out there that is unsaved, they're all in the same cycle. Some might have more money, some might have less money, but they're all in the same cycle. They all need God, and
Right.
you have it good, so you need to take you need to take advantage of that. And for anybody else, that's just maybe unsafe watching, I'd say, I've seen it both sides, and I might not have been as bad as most people, and when I was out there, but I can definitely say that God is the only way. God has really helped me, and that's really all I can say. Like, yeah.
Whether you're good or bad, you still need God.
Yeah.
And so He is coming back soon, and you don't want to miss out, because heaven and hell are real. And so, we encourage anybody who's watching, give your life to Jesus Christ. We are living in the last days. And I challenge you and I encourage you to read Matthew 24, where the Bible says, where Jesus is speaking about the signs of the last days. We're living in them now. And so I encourage you to get saved. And thank everybody for watching. And thank you, bro, for your testimony, sir. Till next time.
Got 2 lanes on the one way. Got 2 lanes on the one way. Got 2 lanes on the one way. Heaven or hell coming someday. Listen to that one way show, yeah.